I, 32F, want to hit on my neighbor, 30 men, without being creepy. I recently found myself in a situation that made me feel both excited and a bit nervous. As a single woman living in a one-bedroom apartment, I had noticed my neighbor, who is also single and quite charming. One night, while doing laundry and feeling a bit tipsy, I decided to take a leap of faith and strike up a conversation with him. I approached him with a classic line, "I forgot my quarters, do you have a few? I'll pay you back." Of course, I had plenty of quarters, but it was a good icebreaker. To my surprise, he handed me a Ziploc bag filled with quarters without hesitation and said, "No worries, take what you need." We ended up chatting for quite a while, and I found him to be incredibly friendly and easy to talk to. He was in great shape, which made me a little self-conscious, but he seemed genuinely interested in our conversation. At one point, he even invited me over for a beer, saying he didn't have much going on. Feeling inspired, I decided to bake some cookies and bring them over along with a couple of beers. I thought it would be a nice gesture, but I also worried it might come off as a bit creepy. I turned to some online friends for advice, and they reassured me that since he had invited me over, it would be perfectly acceptable. They encouraged me to just go for it, reminding me that the worst that could happen was a little rejection, which I could handle. After some encouragement, I decided to take the plunge. I knocked on his door, feeling a mix of excitement and nerves. When he answered, he greeted me by name, which caught me off guard in the best way. I presented my plate of homemade peanut butter cookies and the beers, and to my delight, he invited me in. We spent about an hour chatting, and it was honestly one of the best conversations I've had in a long time. I made the classic mistake of asking, "Why is a guy like you single?" He explained that he tends to go to bed early and doesn't get out much. I mentioned my own insecurities, but he reassured me, saying I was attractive and that we didn't need to rush anything. By the end of our time together, he invited me over again, and we even planned a date for Thursday. I was over the moon. I had never put myself out there like this before, and it felt amazing. Even if it just leads to a new friendship, I felt a connection that went beyond looks. I was so grateful for the encouragement I received from my online friends, and I couldn't help but feel a sense of joy and excitement about what was to come. I recently found myself in a situation that had me feeling both excited and a little nervous. You see, I'd had my eye on my neighbor, a charming guy in his 30s, and I really wanted to hit on him without coming off as creepy. It's a delicate balance, right? I decided to take the plunge and put myself out there. I figured, what's the worst that could happen? I could either get a date or at least boost my confidence. So, I started with small interactions, smiling when we crossed paths, making casual conversation about the weather, and even complimenting his garden. I wanted to show him I was interested, but I didn't want to seem overly eager or awkward. One day, I mustered up the courage to invite him to a small gathering I was hosting. I kept my tone light and friendly, hoping he would take it as a casual invitation rather than a high-pressure situation. To my delight, he accepted. I was over the moon, feeling like I was finally making progress. As the day of the gathering approached, I felt a mix of excitement and nerves. I wanted everything to go perfectly. When he arrived, I made sure to engage him in conversation, keeping it fun and relaxed. We laughed, shared stories, and I could feel a connection growing between us. By the end of the night, I was thrilled with how things had gone. Even if nothing romantic blossomed from it, I felt proud of myself for stepping out of my comfort zone. I realized that putting myself out there more often could lead to new experiences, whether they were romantic or just building friendships. In the end, I left the gathering feeling happy and hopeful. No matter what happens with my neighbor, I know I've gained confidence and learned to embrace new opportunities. And who knows? Maybe this is just the beginning of something wonderful.
Today, I messed up by throwing away old potatoes. About a year ago, I went through a bizarre phase where I could only eat potatoes for an entire month. I have no idea how it started. One day I just woke up with an insatiable hunger that could only be satisfied by spuds. I devoured about 3 to 4 large potatoes a day, usually topped with relish, a bit of mayo, and mustard. Nothing else would do. I even started dreaming about potatoes. Honestly, if it had lasted any longer, I might have founded a potato cult. This potato binge lasted for 37 days, and then just like that, it ended. I woke up one morning, went to the fridge, and grabbed something else to eat, probably ravioli, though I can't quite remember. After that, I completely forgot about potatoes for a long time. I still had about half a bag of them tucked away in the back of my pantry, just waiting for their moment to shine. As days turned into weeks, I completely lost track of their existence. Fast forward a few months, and my parents and I began to notice a terrible odor wafting from the pantry. We searched high and low, but the source of the stench remained elusive. One day the smell became so overpowering that it reached the second floor. It was a scent I can only describe as the smell of fear. One whiff sent my body into a panic, and I felt like I was in a horror movie. I tore through the pantry, determined to find the source of the odor. That's when I discovered it, the old bag of potatoes I had forgotten about. Someone had moved it behind a crock pot we bought 3 years ago and never used. At first I felt a sense of triumph for finding it, but that quickly turned to dread as I reached for the bag. My fingers brushed against something long, fuzzy, and bony. I recoiled in horror, my heart racing. After a moment to gather my courage, I reached out again, this time grabbing the top of the bag. The smell was atrocious. Burying my face in my hoodie, I took a deep breath and pulled the bag into the light. What I saw was straight out of a horror film. The potatoes had sprouted, their roots branching out in all directions, resembling grotesque, decomposed hands trying to escape their fate. They were blue and green, with some areas resembling white flesh. Some even had little fungi growing on them, looking like tiny monsters. I freaked out. For a moment, I genuinely wondered if these were somehow human. I quickly looked away and dashed to the trash can, tossing the bag inside. In my panic, I forgot about the smell and took a deep breath. Big mistake. I started gagging and had to clutch the countertops to steady myself. After catching my breath, I threw the trash bag outside, relieved that my nightmare was over, but the haunting image stayed with me. It's been a year since that day, and I still can't look at potato sprouts without feeling a rush of panic. I can handle fresh potatoes just fine, but the moment I see even the tiniest bump, I'm transported back to those decomposing horrors. I might even have developed a potato allergy, but just like my lactose intolerance, it won't stop me from enjoying my beloved tater tots. So there you have it, my accidental creation of a potato horror that still haunts me today.
Am I the bad guy for charging my sister-in-law for a custom crochet blanket for her baby that she told the whole family I was gifting it? I'm a 32-year-old woman who recently discovered a passion for crocheting. It started during a tough financial period, and I found joy in creating beautiful pieces, slowly building up the courage to sell my work online. It's been a rewarding journey, and I'm proud of my progress. About 2 months ago, my sister-in-law, let's call her Kate, who is 29 and expecting her first baby, reached out to me. She asked if I could make her a custom baby blanket in a specific color and pattern, with the baby's name embroidered on it. She wanted it to be larger than usual. Since I'm still learning and knew this would take a significant amount of time, I quoted her a price of $120, which I thought was quite reasonable given the effort involved. Kate agreed, but then went silent for 2 weeks. Fast forward to a family dinner at my in-laws' house, where my mother-in-law excitedly approached me, saying, "Kate told us about the beautiful blanket you're making for the baby. You're so sweet." I was taken aback and looked at Kate, who just smiled, seemingly unfazed. It turned out she had told the entire family that I was making the blanket as a gift, completely overlooking our previous conversation about the price. Later, I pulled Kate aside and reminded her that I never agreed to make it for free. To my surprise, she became upset, accusing me of being too materialistic and insisting that families shouldn't charge each other for such things. She argued that it was just yarn and a crochet hook, which stung because I had invested so much time and effort into learning and creating. I explained that the blanket would take me around 50 to 60 hours, possibly more, and that it wasn't just a simple task for me. When I offered to still make the blanket if she paid, she started crying and left the dinner early. Now my mother-in-law believes I should have just given it as a gift for the sake of family harmony, calling me petty for standing my ground. My husband supports me, but thinks I could have handled it more discreetly. Some friends say I did nothing wrong, while others suggest I should have just been generous and done it for free. I can't shake the feeling that Kate manipulated the situation to pressure me into making the blanket without compensation. She knew that by announcing it as a gift, I would feel embarrassed to refuse. It hurts that she doesn't seem to respect the time and effort I've put into my craft, especially as I'm still learning. Now half the family thinks I'm the bad guy for not making the blanket.